right. Shalom, shalom. Barakatah Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham Rakakwadash. Double honors to our apostles and elder bishops here at Great Millstone. Shalom to you brothers that's pushing the work in truth with all sincerity. All right. So we'll get straight to this lesson. The gist of it is dealing with persecution. What we'll be covering is Project Esther and Project 2025. Pretty much just a short layout or, a synopsis of, what Esau is about to do. They're about to bring more of a crackdown. All right. As we know, the scriptures point these times out as, Jacob's trouble. All right. Dealing with you tribes, you Israelites, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. This is something that we've been warning about. All right. From the very beginning. Okay. And we are to and have been preparing our minds for, this big trial, this final trial that we have to go through. The scriptures refer to it as Jacob's trouble, which I just mentioned, Jeremiah 30:7, and last for that day is great, so that none is like it, right? And Esau is about to crack down, all right? He's about to bring the crack down, okay? And he's about to come in like a flood, okay, with his troops. As the scriptures say, a burning wrath. It says, oh boy, here it is. I'll just get it right here, so I can. The burning wrath of a great multitude, excuse me. All right. And that's dealing with the troops. Okay. They're going to come in as a flood. All right. And we know that these Edomites want to get rid of Jake, man. Okay. And they're doing certain things right now as we speak with certain different policies, silencing, so-called Negroes, black communities is what they call them. All right. Um, you know, making it hard for you to have a voice in this place because ultimately they want to purge you from society. Okay. And that's just the raw truth. Okay. And what we're about to see, it'll prove what we're saying. All right. What basically is about to unfold will prove what we're saying. All right. So let's deal with this. Okay. And it's going to get so bad that we're going to need the angels to help out. Here that Daniel 12:1. And at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince which standeth for the children of thy people, and there shall be a time of trouble such as never was since there was a nation, even to that same time. And why is it that this is the most troublesome time? Okay, because you're dealing with Esau at the height of his blessing. Okay, and the scriptures refer to him as what we just mentioned, one, the burning wrath of a great multitude. Okay. Also, he's also mentioned as the devil coming down with great wrath because he knoweth that he have but a short time. Okay. He is the wicked. The scriptures say that the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covereth the faces of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he? So we're about to essentially see him, the fruit of his labor, his works, and that's going to prove that he was the devil all along. All right. So dealing with this Project Esther as of late, there's been, the world has found out who's the main culprit. Okay. Who's the ones that is, bringing chaos, the one that's generating chaos, I should say, and destroying communities, destroying whole societies. And the world knows it. And in the response to them, being revealed, the wicked being revealed in his time, his response is to go after those that speak uprightly, those that speak and expose the the wicked nature of the the people in power. Okay, so let's go here before I lose my train of thought. So Project Esther says the Heritage Foundation's Project Esther is a policy initiative released in October 2024, and framed by its authors as a strategy to combat anti-Sim. Okay. in the U.S. However, it has drawn major controversy because critiques or critics, excuse me, not critique, argue it broadly labels pro palin palinine. I can't say the name, so I'll be speaking in code. But as you can see on the screen, so it really don't matter. It says activism, campus protests, and certain advocacy groups as part of Hamas support network, potentially justifying expanded surveillance, legal crackdowns, deportations, and institutional suppression. And that's what this devil is doing. He's playing victim, okay? And he's making it seem like he's the most sought after. He is the most hated. And indeed, he is the most hated because of the ill works that this man has been doing and it's been revealed to the world. So people are not taking a liking to finding out that, the reason why the world is in such chaos is because of this certain group of people. All right. A small group of people. Okay. And it's been found out that they own everything, all right, media, as far as media and entertainment, and that you really can't make it in this world unless you are about a debaucherous lifestyle, about a decadent lifestyle, because that's what they, pretty much push. But they're going to crack down as a response to the Lord's reproach, because that's what it is. When people are standing up and uproars of the people is because what? When the wicked bear rule, the people mourn. And when the people mourn, they rise up. All right. And as a response to people rising up, he's going to make, uh, those that speak truth a target. He's going to, and it's ultimately to come after the actual truth, because the group of men that's actually going into the Bible, all right, which it pretty much condemns this world, all right, the current power structure. Okay, and whenever you speak truth to power, all right, you become a prey, as the scriptures say in Isaiah the 59th chapter, all right, in the 15th verse. But let's continue. As its core elements often associated with Project Esther, reframing anti-Israel or anti-Zionist activism as national security threats. See, they're going to be able to it's going to be, basically, they can say you're a terrorist, okay? And they'll mobilize all, who they have to, mainly troops, all right, and people to go door to door, you know, and they have been doing that, against people and then people have spent, time in jail, okay, for speaking out against them and saying certain things against them, okay. It shows you who has the power, all right. But again, this is all a response to what? Him being revealed as the wicked, all right. And once everybody found him out, all right, he has to make, urgent, moves, so to speak. Revelations 12:12, therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. All right. So his time is running short because he's been figured out. And ultimately, the prophets, the men of the Lord, were a sign of his downfall. Okay, which is the most grievous thing that he's, has to deal with is the reproach of, the words of the Heavenly Father, because it's condemning his way. All right, it's condemning what he's doing in the earth. Okay, so let me see here, because basically what they're about to do, or what they are doing, excuse me, they're using the law of justice, all right, um, to bring forth more oppression. Okay, so Wisdom of Solomon 2:11, it says, "Let our strength be the law of justice," and we're going to get into more of the Project Esther. All right. For that which is feeble is found to be nothing worth. All right. And they look at the people, the poor as feeble. All right. And they feel as though they can pretty much do whatever they want. Okay. Because there ain't no pushback. You got people protesting, but that ain't really a pushback to them. And soon enough, people that's protesting, all right, they tracking and tracing you. All right, and they're gonna start going after those who speak against or who have a problem with the power structure. Okay, and you're gonna be deemed terrorist and so on and so forth. So it says here reframing anti Pisrael and anti Pionist, all right, activism as national security threats, encouraging legal tools like RICO, right? The RICO, right? Wow. Immigration enforcement and financial restrictions, you see? And so that's nothing but a prelude. This is nothing but a prelude to, the them implementing, a certain system, which is the beast system, okay? Because that's what Amalek, essentially, that's what we're talking about. Amalek, the chief house of Edom right now, right? They're going to implement uh, a system to where, if you're speaking against them and their agenda, all right, they're going to be able to lock you out. And that's what they're doing now, even as we speak. All right. But they're going to bring in something, a whole new system, all right, to be able to do that. And AI is going to be at the helm of it. So pressuring universities, nonprofits, and media organizations, coordinating political, legal, and public messaging campaigns. See, and we've seen that a lot. We've seen it in the commercials in the Super Bowl, during the Super Bowl halftime, you know. So they add power, okay? And they're going to make it a thing to arrest you if you point out their evil doings, okay? So supporters say it is a response to rising anti-Sim. It seeks to protect Jewish communities and U.S. institutions. Okay, and we know it's a ploy, because they make it seem they want to play the victim this time. Because according to prophecy, well, the nations are going to, be an array against the actual children of Israel, and we're actually seeing that. You know, theirs is made up while ours is we got to go through the real thing, so to speak, being discriminated against, being targeted, to be put in prisons, and this has been going on for a long time, but they've been able to silence it in such a way where, they just look at us as criminals, okay? Um, they look at us as criminals and they basically say we deserve to get locked up, and things of that nature. We deserve, police killing us and all of that type of stuff, you know. But it's because Esau Edom has been behind it the whole time. Through culture creation, he's created a generation of misfits. They call them YNs, a generation that are wise in their own conceit. All right, they hate order. They're like savages. Okay, and we know that that their endeavors in the entertainment industry, as the scriptures say, that their thoughts are deep. All right, they search out iniquities, and that's what they have done for our people, and set snares and traps for us, and push this way of life to Jake, so that they would be influenced and pretty much all while at the same time doing this, sabotaging the family structure and so on and so forth. All right. So critics argue it risks suppressing free speech and protest rights, because that's what they really going after. You know. So it's like it's ambiguous. They're using it. Anti-Sim as a Trojan horse to bring in this beast system. Okay. It says it conflates criticism of Israeli policy with terrorism. Okay, and that's what we're about to see. Okay, it may expand state or institutional repression against dissenting voices. That's right. Anybody that's speaking against, all right, the uh, the power structure, okay, they're going to be able to what it says here, expand state or institutional repression. Okay, so they're going to have their hands in different institutions. All right, and they're going to, especially for people who are looking for jobs or are working jobs, they can. There's going to be a point where they'll be able to get you fired, and they're going to use the law of justice to do it. All right, Isaiah 10 goes into that. You know, let's see here. Isaiah 10 and 1 says, woe unto them that decree unrighteous decrees and that right grievousness which they have prescribed, to turn aside the needy from judgment, and to take away the right from the poor of my people. That's right. That widows may be their prey. That make widows, that make widows, that widows may be their prey, Slakia, and that they may rob the fatherless. All right. Let's read it in NLT. Isaiah 10 and 1, it says, what sorrows or sorrow awaits the unjust judges and those who issue unfair laws. And that's what this is. This is just moving a goalpost because they're being reproached. And the scriptures say they would be perpetually reproached. So it's like an everlasting reproach. Okay. And the world is crying out against them. And their response is what? To try and shut it down. All right. To try and quell the cries, or eliminate the cries, or and eliminate the dissent. And you should hear the rhetoric that comes from these small hats, man. They're very hateful. Okay, you know, especially when they get to talking about the goyim and all of that. All right, so let's see here. Go back here. Broader significance. This is Project Esther is often discussed alongside Project 2025. All right, as part of a larger strategic framework for reshaping federal policy through aggressive, conservative governance models. All right, debate around it centers on civil liberties, protest rights, and how governments define extremism, right? And so they're going to redefine extremism. So when you speak up against oppression, they're going to label you a dissident, or agent of chaos, whatever, the T word. All right. So they get to redefine all of that. Okay. So I just asked you to give me a hypothetical scenario. So how these two projects, how they would basically, can you give me a real world scenario of Project Esther and Project 2025 both being implemented basically at the same time? All right. And this, this for sure we know is, the planning. This is what they're doing. All right. This is not, this really is really not hypothetical. All right. But in order for Chad to, uh, give me a decent answer, you have to say hypothetical scenario or whatever, but we know this is going to be playing out in real time. So the federal government reconstruction, or excuse me, restructuring. All right. Tens of thousands of civil servants are reclassified under policies like Schedule F, schedule policy, making them easier to remove and replace with politically aligned personnel. You see? So they get to detain, 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 detain. They get to arrest you. Okay. And so what does that mean? I mean, if they're going after their own, all right, and we know Satan's house is divided, how much more the prophets, the men of the Lord, who's saying, you're going into slavery, and you in um, uh, your place of living, your society is going to be completely and utterly burned. You know, how much more energy you think they're going to have towards us? All right, it says agencies such as the DOJ, DHS, FBI, and education department shifts priorities toward ideological enforcement. So your belief, you can be in trouble because of what you believe. You know, again, them moving the goalposts because it's a grievous, it's grievous, as the scriptures say, it's grievous for them to behold. All right. Wisdom of Solomon 2:11 again, it says, let our strength be the law of justice, for that which is feeble is found to be nothing worth. So they're going to use their law of justice to bring in tyranny, okay? To bring in tyranny, all right? Verse 12, it says, therefore let us lie in wait for the righteous, because he is not for our turn, and he is clean contrary to our doings. He upbraideth us, meaning we curse him out, okay? Us with our offending the law. And that's what they have been doing, offending the law. Okay. They haven't been following any law, and they pride themselves of being Judeo-Christian, Christian nationalists. They claim to follow the Bible, but they ignore all the laws in there, and we know it's for them to perpetuate white supremacy. You know, it's just a ploy for them to continue doing evils in the earth because in the name of Jesus they murder and they kill. All right, all right. But we know that the Lord, which his name ain't Jesus. All right, okay. He was pretty much the opposite. He was about clothing. He was about clothing and clothing the poor. All right, and healing the sick. This society is completely opposite. They don't heal the sick. They make them more sicker. But yeah, you get what I'm saying. So, Salaka, he upbraideth us with our offending the law and objecteth to our infamy, the transgressings of our education. That's right. You know, and this man, he deals in pseudoscience, made up, uh, you know, knowledge, okay, and research so that he can justify, his terrible works, you know, calling people, basically dehumanizing people. And he's been doing that for the longest, Charles Darwin, the Galton Institute, and all of those individuals back then, which I think that was around the age of enlightenment, if I'm not mistaken. Correct me if I'm wrong, but during that time they had what they were doing, where they were, pretty much creating this science, the pseudo science, natural selection, okay, depicting the Negroid as inferior, and him being a superior, you know, and all of that is really a witness against you, okay, because you have done violence in the name of all of that, so you're gonna have to pay for that. All right. So let's see here. Let's keep going. Verse 13. He professed to have the knowledge of God, and he calleth himself the child of the Lord. Right. And that it hurts them when we say that, because they've been trying for so long to rid the earth of our memory of who we are. And that's Psalms 83. It says he was made to reprove our thoughts. Okay. He is grievous unto us even to behold, for his life is not like other men's. His ways are of another fashion. So we're grievous unto them. All right. And that's why they're bringing, Project Esther, Project 2025. All right. To weed out those that grieve them. And that's mainly the prophets. Okay. Because, we're witness. The scriptures talking about the two witnesses. All right. And then you have, the shameful spewing, but it's of people of their own. All right. And their tongue falling upon themselves. Essentially, they're telling on each other. Okay. So we'll read a little bit more. It says, let's see here, federal government restructuring. So we read the first two bullet points. It says here, internal dissent or whistleblowing is weakened. All right, and I was just talking about, them, their tongue falling upon themselves, meaning they're telling on each other. Those that have intel, they they push that intel out to the masses. All right, and it foils pretty much the surprise, uh, that they're, but most people are asleep, so they're gonna get caught by it anyway. Expanded domestic surveillance, activist groups, campus organizations, nonprofits, journalists, and protest coalitions may be scrutinized more aggressively if labeled extremist or destabilizing, right? And basically, if you don't pay homage, if you don't, get on your knees and say, oh, Israel, and give them credence, the credence that they want, that you are in basically in violation. Okay, so Palestinian groups, racial justice organizations. All right, and look at that. We probably fall up under that. It says, or anti-corporate movements could face enhanced monitoring, financial audits, legal investigations. All right, right. It take you into in you know maybe a black site to interrogate you. You know, probably beat you up or whatever the case may be, and lock you up. You know, immigration consequences for non-citizen participants. See, so yeah, man, and this covers pretty much everybody that don't like this man. All right, but for sure, he's coming after the Israelites, man. That's what this is truly about. All right, he's coming after the so-called Negro, Latino, and Native American. All right, because they know it's time, and they've been waiting for this time. All right, they watched us raise up. They watched us preach, prophesy. They've been watching for decades now, right? So it's something that you know that that triggered in them, or a sign that they've seen something to whereas they're moving a lot more faster. You know, university and public institution crackdowns. Universities receiving federal funds may be pressured to suppress demonstrations deemed disruptive. Student organizations may lose recognition or funding. Expanded policing of speech under security or anti-terrorism frameworks. You see, and that's you've seen this in movies, man, like 1984. You know, a dystopian society where uh, speaking freely was a crime. Okay, and it's going to be in real life, in real time. All right. So immigration plus protest intersection, protest participation by visa holders, immigrants, or asylum seekers may be tied to deportation or denial of status. So they don't want nobody talking about them. ICE and DHS roles expand significantly under stricter national security standards. See, corporate state alignment. All right, there you go. And this is gonna be the kicker right here. All right, you're gonna see, you know, uh, basically corporations, all right, become more of an authority. All right, and they're gonna pretty much have the state at their control. Okay, major corporations may cooperate with federal priorities to avoid penalties. Private tech data firms may assist in digital monitoring. So I can say it the other round. So the federal, all right, will basically use the corporations to track and trace. All right. So private tech data firms may assist in digital monitoring or content moderation aligned with state security concerns. Labor strikes or anti-corporate protests may be more easily framed as threats. See, all right. Example, day-to-day impact. The scenario: a large national protest movement emerges against corporate land seizures, surveillance, or foreign policy. You see, so anything that they're doing in a corrupt fashion, you're not going to be able to stop, and they'll be able to crack down on. They'll be able to, you know, detain you, do whatever they want to you at some point. You know, under combined frameworks, organizers' bank records could be investigated, social media campaigns monitored. All right, protest protest leaders prosecuted under conspiracy or anti-extremist status or statute. Excuse me. Federal workers sympathetic to protesters could be purged. See, yeah, they're covering all grounds. It says universities and nonprofits supporting protests risk federal retaliation. Public dissent becomes legally riskier. See, potential social outcome: stronger executive branch, reduced institutional independence, increased chilling effect on protest, free speech, greater polarization, public perception of authoritarian governance. All right, and this is why it's going to be bad. This is why it's going to be worse than any time before. Okay, because it's more of a concentrated power. All right, and they'll be able to monitor all people as if they were, God themselves. Okay, it says more power concentrated among aligned political, corporate, and security elites. Historical comparisons often raise critics sometimes compare this type of consolidation to COINTELPRO, McCarthy era blacklisting, excuse me, post 9/11 Patriot Act surveillance expansion, authoritarian administrative centralization models, and that every you know I could say from since 20 uh, 2000 they were able to bring in another agenda to expand more control, you know, and this project Esther and Project 2025 is going to be you know the thing that they bring in for the end of this decade to bring more of that control. All right, but more it's going to be at the levels that they want, as far as they'll be able to do with the public, or they'll be able to do to people whatever they want, torture them and detain them, and ultimately eliminate them from this earth. Okay, supporters would likely argue national security, restoring order, all right, combating extremism, all right, reducing bureaucratic obstruction, protecting cultural institutions. All right. It says the combination could create a society where executive power, ideological governance, right? And this is a whole different ball game. I mean, you've seen it in history, um, places where I'm thinking Russia, Germany, all right, where you couldn't say anything, all right, without being put to death. Oh, China, you know, when you look at their history, all right, and soon the land of the free, it ain't gonna be the land of the free, you know. All right, it's gonna be a prison. Okay, it's gonna be a prison planet, as they say. So ideological governance and national security enforcement become deeply interconnected. potentially reshaping protest rights, civil liberties, and institutional independence in profound ways. All right. So yeah, they're coming with it, and this is going to be the new Patriot Act plus all those other things. Okay, because again, um, you got the small hat playing the victim. All right, and he's going to go after everybody he can, and mainly they want to really go after the prophets. Okay, because we are the things that what we're doing is what they're really shaking at. They're shaking in their boots because we're prophesying, we're condemning them, you know, and it's all justified, it's all righteous. There's nothing evil on our behalf. It's evil to the wicked because it's bringing down their illegitimate society. Okay, so second Ezra 16:40 says, "Oh my people, hear my word, make you ready to thy battle, and in those evils be even as pilgrims upon the earth." And a pilgrim is one that is a sojourner, essentially a foreigner, one that's looking for a miracle. And we're looking for a miracle. We're looking for the Heavenly Father and His Son to save us. Yahweh Shai, Yahweh Shai, to save us from our enemies. Because the scriptures say, uh, yeah, Lamentations 1:5, her adversaries are chief. Her is dealing with Israel. All right. And the adversary is the enemy. And it says they are the chief, meaning that they're at the highest places of authority. Okay, her enemies prosper. All right, for the Lord Yahweh hath afflicted her for the multitude of her transgressions. Okay, and this is essentially what we're about to go through is another trial, and Jacob's gonna be, pretty much judged. It says judgment shall begin at the house of the Lord. They're gonna be judged for their works because they didn't repent when that the Lord extended his mercy through his men, prophesying, teaching, all right, and daily building, you know, building you up, okay, daily warning you. So it says her children are gone into captivity before the enemy, all right? And it's funny that they're trying to, put Jake into captivity again, all right? So we got to have the pilgrim mindset, knowing that, this world, this present, this current evil world, all right, is just temporal. It's temporary. All right. So we know what is going to result in, speaking his truth. Okay. Because they have all the videos. They have us, you know, cursing them out. They have us rebuking them, reproaching, correcting them, pointing out all their evil and corruption and all the evil that they have done to us behind closed doors. All right. And they're going to call us what? Extremists, identity extremists, so on and so forth. But the Lord says what? Revelations 2:10, it says, fear none of those things which thou shalt suffer. Behold, the devil shall cast some of you into prison. So the devil at the very end, the devil is gonna literally be casting people into prisons. So who's setting up for that? Who's playing that role? Right? Is the Edomites, all right, the so-called white men. Okay? That ye may be tried, and ye shall have tribulation 10 days. All right. Could be actual 10 days. It could be, you know, a code for something else. All right. Be thou faithful unto death, and I will give thee a crown of life. And our biggest test is what? For some of us, it's going to, be, being unalived, having to go through torture and being, beheaded, for the word's sake. Not because we put our hands on somebody. No, they're going to play it as though, we're the worst thing ever, that we're terrorists and we're a threat, this, that, and the third. But the whole time they've been a very active threat to us and everybody else, in the world, but mainly to the children of Israel because systematically they have been preying upon us since our inception here, or since our origin here in the Americas, right along with the other tribes. They've been coming against us in such ways: disease warfare, uh, psychological warfare, okay, violence, you know, uh, sexual violence, so on and so forth. The list goes on. All right. And that's the history that they want to hide and pretty much, sweep under the rug. But our witness is going out against them in the world, and the Lord has heard. And he's about to act. He's about to be jealous for his people again. All right. So yeah, this is going to be a trial. It's going to be one of the greatest trials. Why? All right, because it's a proving. All right. But here was in Solomon 5:1. Then shall the righteous man stand in great boldness before the face of such as have afflicted him and made no account of his labors. All right. They made no account of all the studying we done and all the things that we searched out, and all the things that we found out to be true. Okay. All right. They're just mad that we're standing up against them. They're just mad because we're not in that sleep state, that we're not uh, essentially brainwashed, you know. But this is part of the reason why they're trembling, and you know, uh, this is why they're gonna react so urgently. Okay, let me see here. Yeah, I'll get straight to the point on this one. This is Revelations 11:11, and after 3 days and a half, which represents 350 years. Okay, the spirit of life from God entered into them. Who? The Israelites. Okay, the Israelites. All right, Valley of the Dry Bones. Us having no uh, well, us being spiritually dead, not us not knowing who we are, you know. We've been every name under the sun except for the sons of God, you know. All right. So, and they stood upon their feet. All right. And that goes back to the what? That wisdom of Solomon 5 I just read. Righteous men shall stand in great boldness before the face of such as have afflicted them. Right. And they stood upon their feet, and great fear fell upon them which saw them. So, the great fear is our enemies that saw us rise up, okay? Because that's the white man's number one fear is the so-called Negro, Latino, and Native American rising up and coming from that, you know, breaking those spells, breaking that curse, all right, or the curses that they put over us daily, all right, and they've been watching and waiting. All right, Jeremiah 30:7 again. Alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it. For it shall come to pass in that day, said the Lord Yahweh of hosts, meaning of armies, that I will break his yoke from off thy neck, and I will burst thy bonds, because they still have us in captivity. But the Lord is going to break us loose from them. Okay, and we're not going to have to serve them. All right, the scriptures Isaiah 10:20 goes into, we shall not lean upon our oppressors. All right, but we shall lean upon the Holy One of Israel, our God. Okay. And strangers shall no more serve themselves of him. All right, but they shall serve the Lord Yahweh their power, and David their king, whom I will raise up unto them. All right, and this is slated for the last days. Okay, therefore fear thou not. All right, O my servant Jacob, you Israelites, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, said the Lord Yahweh, neither be dismayed, O Israel, for lo, I will save thee from afar, and thy seed from the land of their captivity. And Jacob, right, because it's depicting Israel being captive in their enemy's land, all right, in the latter times. And Jacob shall return. And where is that? That's America, okay? And Jacob shall return and shall be in rest and be quiet, and none shall make him afraid, The Lord's going to bring salvation to his people. Okay. Wisdom of Solomon 3. and 1. It says, but the souls of the righteous are in the hand of God, and there shall no torment touch them. All right. In the sight of the unwise, they seem to die, and their departure is taken for misery. All right. So they look at it as miserable. But what? It says, and they're going from us to be utter destruction, but they are in peace. So we're going to be in peace. All right. Those that have, who have, who will have their lives taken by, these Edomites. Wisdom of Solomon 3 and 4, it says, for though they be punished in the sight of men, yet is their hope full of immortality. Right. And this is another thing Esau is mad at, because we get an immortality, which is promised to us. Okay. And they're mad at that because they lost the birthright. Okay. And they didn't receive that blessing. The blessing that they received is what we see now with them ruling in the earth, as they have been creating war, wasting and destroying, sabotaging, and so on and so forth. All right. All right. What's this? Group 3. I think that's it. That's pretty much it. Lord willing, this was edifying. I just wanted to touch on these two things and to show you, uh, there's pretty much a new phase coming with, this move that Esau is doing, and we're drawing closer and closer to persecution, but ultimately, and more importantly, we're drawing closer to our salvation, and our salvation is nearer than when we believe, as the scriptures say. So with that, Lord willing, this was edifying. Until next time, I say shalom.